Hi everyone. In this video, we shall explore selection operators in Power Query. We shall discuss different ways in which we could select rows and columns in Power Query. We shall see that what is item access and what is field access. And we shall also cover many tips and tricks. So stay tuned till the end. So this is the data that we have here, and this is an Excel table. And before moving on to Power Query Editor, let's try to understand the data first. So in this data, we have the regional manager column. These are the IDs of the regional manager, so they have to be unique. Then we have the state column in which we have the state name in which the regional manager operates. Then we have the city name. So in which city of this state does this regional manager operate? So let's say for Rajasthan, we will have, let's say, three cities here in this data, and in these three cities these corresponding regional managers operate, and these are the sales amount that we have in thousands. One more thing that we have here is that there are two constraints. So in a particular combination of state and city, so let's say we have city as Jodhpur here and state as Rajasthan. So in this combination of state and city, there will only be a single regional manager who will operate here, right? So for this city and state, A001 is responsible. And again, one more point is that A001 can operate, or all the regional managers can operate only in single city, right? They cannot operate in more than one cities here. So there are two constraints here. First of all, that for a single combination of state and city, there will only be a single regional manager responsible, and a given regional manager cannot operate in more than one city. So these are the two constraints that we have in this data, right? So this is the data that we have, Excel table. So let's load this table to Power Query Editor. So for that, we will go to Data tab and from table/range. So we will click here and we are inside Power Query Editor. So these two steps are generated by Power Query. So we could remove this change type step, and we have this source step here, in which again this formula is generated by Power Query. We will see that how we can replicate this formula by ourselves once we understand the field access, item access, and the selection operators, right? So we will come back to study this later on. So now let's do one thing. Let's insert a new step here. So we will click on this add step, and we have this new step inserted here, and it is referring to the previous table, right? The source table that we had here. And here again we have regional manager, state, city, and sales, right? Now let's explore item access first, then we will move on to field access. So before again moving on to that, let's understand one thing, that each of the rows here, each of the rows here that we have, these are records in Power Query. So this is a record here. And again, each of these columns, if we see them individually, they are list, right? They are individual lists here. So this is an understanding that we must have. Now let's explore that how we can extract the items of the first row here, right? This is the first row here in this table. So how we can extract this first row? So in order to extract this first row, what we can do, again, this is the source step, the table that we have. From this, we want to extract the first row. So what we can do, we can open the curly brackets here. And since Power Query has base 0, so what we will do, in order to extract the first row, we will write 0 here, right? For the first row, 0. For the second row, we will input 1 here. For the third row, we will input 2 here. So from this table, we wish to extract the first row. So we will open curly brackets here, and we will input 0 here. So we have the first row here, right? Whose regional manager is A001, state is Rajasthan, city is Jodhpur, and sales is 841. Right? These are the items of the first row from this table. Now let's say from this table we wish to extract the items of the fifth row. So what we will give here as input, we will give 4 as input here. So we have the items of the fifth row: regional manager, state, city, and sales. Again, this is a record in Power Query, right? So now we have extracted the items of the fifth row by first of all opening and closing curly brackets, and within that we will have to input the row number -1, right? Row number was 5, so we will have to input 4 here. So this is how item access works here. Now let's do one thing. Let's say we have 16 rows here. So in order to extract the last row, that is 16, we will have to input 15 here, right? So we will input 15 here, and we got this as our result. Now let's say we input 16 here. So 16, again, there are not 17 rows here, so 16 would not work here. So we get this error, expression dot error. There weren't enough elements in the enumeration to complete the operation. So this is the error that we get. So how do we deal with this error here, right? So one thing that we can do is that in case we get the error, so we can use try and otherwise combination. So try this, otherwise, if this gives us error, then what we should do, otherwise we should get null here. So we tried getting data from the 17th row, but we were not able to find the 17th row. That's why we are getting this error. And in case we are getting error, we wish to see null here, right? Let's say we input 9 here. So we are able to access the items of the ninth row. Now, another way to deal with such situation without using try and otherwise keyword is using a question mark operator. So let's see this. So let me copy this. Let me come here and let me paste that formula here. So let me remove this try and otherwise keyword, right? Let me remove this. So we have got this. Let's say if we write 19 here, so 20th row, then we are getting this error. So what we can do, we can write a question mark here, right? In case we are not able to access the items of from this particular row, so what we will get null here. So we can use this question mark operator here, right, in order to use this. And let's say we don't want to see null, so this will give us null by default. So what we can do further, in order to replace this null, we can use coalesce operator. So we could use double question mark here in order to get the coalesce operator. So in case this value is null, what we wish to see, let's say no record, right? No record. So we are getting no record here. So this question mark we used when we were getting that item access error, that we were not able to access this 20th row. And we got null because of that, right? Now we are getting null. We wish to replace that null with this text here, that is no record. So we can use double question mark for accessing the coalesce operator. So we are getting this here. So this is how we could smartly deal with such situations in our data, right? So we explored item access here. Again, there is one more point that is left in item access. We will come to that. Now let's explore field access. So we explored item access, which gives us this record. Now we will explore field access, which will give us a list in return. So let's say this is the table that we have here. So let me create another step and let us access the source table. So source table, and we have the source table here. Now from this source table, let's say we wish to access the state column. So what we can do, we can open the square brackets here in order to access the state column and write the name of the column here. So we will write here state. So we will write that, and we got that state column as a list here, right? We got that as a list here. Now we can carry out all sorts of list operations on this list, right? Now let's say we replace this by sales. So we are getting this error. Why we are getting this error? Because if we see, we have this text as well here, right? So what we will do, we will copy this and we will come here and replace this sales by the text here. Again, we are getting this error. Let's study that why are we getting this error. Again, this error is different from the error we were getting earlier. This is syntax error. Earlier we were getting a different error. So if we, let's say, replace this, let's press Ctrl X. So we were getting this error, expression dot error, column sales of the table was not found, right? But when we write something like this here, so we are getting syntax error, right? So let's see that why we are getting this error. So we will, what we will do, that we will create another step, and let's name this step as, let's say, my, and a space, and we will write query here. Let's say we do this, we rename this step as my query. Now let's do another thing. Let's again click on this add step button to add another step, and let's see that what is the output that we get. So let's click here. What are we getting when we clicked on add step here and we reference to this step custom 3, we were getting this custom 3 step written simply here, right? No extra characters here. when we access this step my query, we are getting this extra characters here, right? A pound sign, then we are getting this double quotes here. So we are getting these extra characters here. What is different in this query, referencing this query and this query? Let's see that. So what is different is the names, right? Here we don't have any spaces or any other special character in the name of this step here, custom 3. It is plainly written here. Let's rename this to, let's say, field access. Field access, right? Now this step is referring to this step, previous step, which is field access. We are getting that simply here. When we add, let's say, a space in between field and access, what we will get an extra pound sign and double quotes here, right? Let's say we remove this space from here and let's input some number here. Let's say 123. Then let's see we will get that extra characters or not. We are not getting that, right? Now let's add some special character here. So let's say we add a bracket here, right? So now we are getting those extra characters here, right? So now we know that this error was not because of these numbers here, it was because of these extra characters here, right? Bracket and this quotation mark and this space here, right? So that's why we were getting that error, syntax error. And how we can resolve that? We can resolve that by using pound sign here and these double quotations here, right? So we can resolve that issue here. So what we will do, we will use within that those square brackets, we will use pound sign, open the double quotes and close the double quotes here. So now we are getting that sales column here. So we could remove these extra steps here and we are getting that sales column here. Again, we can rename this back to field access. So we are getting that sales column here as a list, right? From this source. So this is how we can resolve this issue when in the name of the column we have spaces and extra characters, right? Special characters. So this is how we can resolve that issue. And now let's say we input city here within double quotes again. So again, we could simply input city here, or we could input that inside double quotes and using pound sign. That would give us the same result. Even if we replace this by, let's say, simply city, because city doesn't have any special characters here. So we will get that same result here. But we could use pound sign here as well. Pound sign. If we use only pound sign, then we will get syntax error. We will have to give that inside double quotes as well. So we will use double quotes here. So this is the syntax that we have to follow here in certain situations. And this is again the syntax we have to follow when we are defining records and the name of the field contains spaces and special characters. Right. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. Right. So we are getting city column here. Now, again, if we try to access regional manager, so we will have to write here regional. Again, the same exact same name, regional and manager. Again, manager M was in uppercase, so we will have to write M in uppercase. Regional manager. Right. So we are getting that regional manager column. Now let's say by mistake, if we input a small m here, so what error we will get? So we are getting this error that this column regional manager of the table wasn't found. So we are getting this error. And how we can resolve this error now? We saw that in case of item access that we could use question mark operator here. How we can resolve this issue? Can we use the same thing here as well? Let's see that. So let's use that operator here as well. So we will use that operator. And again, this works for field access as well, that in case we are not able to access a given field, we could use a question mark operator here and we will get null in return. Let's say if we correct this by writing capital M here, so we will get that list here. But if we again turn that back to small m, then we are getting this null here. And again, in order to replace this null, what we can do, we can use coalesce operator. So let's input double question mark here. And what should we replace that null with? We could give anything here. So let's say we give another list here, an empty list. So in case we are not able to access that particular column, we could give an empty list as well. So we are getting an empty list here. We could enter something here as well, 1 comma 2 comma 3 here. So we could input a list here, a record or table, anything here, right? In order to replace that null here. But when we are not able to access that regional manager column, what we will get in return by using this question mark operator here, we will get null. And in order to replace that null with something, we could use double question mark here. Again, coalesce operator is the technical word for that. And we could write here that what we should replace that null with. So we could use such sort of syntax here in order to resolve such issues. So let me correct this. Let us write regional manager here. Now we have covered item access and field access. And again, we have seen that we could, using item access, we get a record in return, and using field access, we get a list in return. Now let's see that how we can get this. Let's say we were getting a single column here as a list. Now let's see that how we can get, let's say, more than one column at the same time. Again, using field access here. So let's see that as well. So what we will do here, we will refer to the source table again, right? So we are getting that source table, and from this table, from this source table, we wish to get two columns in return, that is state and city. So what we can do, we can open square brackets here, and again we will open square brackets here, and in this square bracket we will write, let's say, city. So we wish to get city column, but not as a list but as a table. So we are getting this table back, and we are getting that city column, right? So again, we have to use square bracket two times. So we are getting city column here as a table. And if we wish to extract, let's say, city column and the state column, what we can do, again, within the outer record, within the outer square brackets, what we can do, we can input two separate records. So this is first record, right? This is again first set. Then we could write the name of the second column as well, which we wish to extract. So again, we will open the square brackets, and within that we will write, let's say, state. So we could again reposition the order as well, reorder the columns as well. If we see, state column we had at the second position and city column as the third column, we could reorder the columns as well like this. So right now what we are doing, within the square brackets, we are giving these two inputs. Again, the first set, first column, that is city column, and the second column, that is the state column here, and separated by a comma here. We could include, let's say, third column as well. So we will give comma here, open the square brackets, and within that we could write regional manager. Regional manager. Right, we are getting that here. Again, we could see that again this space is not causing an issue here. Right, this space is not causing an issue here, but it's a good practice that we use that pound sign here in order to access that. Something that has spaces or special characters here. So if we try to access, let's say, sales column here, we will get that error. So let's copy this. Let's come here and let's write that here as well. So again, open the square bracket. Let's paste that. We will get that error. So we can use pound sign here. Open the double quotes and close the double quotes here. So we will not get that error now, right? So this is how we can select multiple columns at once as well, right? And we can reorder columns as well like this. So right now we are dealing with only city and state column. So we can remove the extra columns from here, right? Now let's say if we include another column, let's say name column, right? We don't have name column here, but we write that here. So name column of the table was not found. So in order to again resolve that issue, can we use that question mark operator here? Let's try. So we will use that here, and what we get is nulls in this name column only, right? So this name column was not correct. We are able to get the rest of the columns correctly. So we were not able to get this name, access this name column from this table. So what we are getting nulls generated for only this name column here. So this is the amazing behavior that we could witness. This single operator has so much power, right? Single question mark operator. So now let's also try the coalesce operator. So double question mark here, and let's say we write no name here. So the coalesce operator doesn't work here. We will have to deal with that thing separately for this column here, but this question mark operator works very fine here, right? This generates nulls for the column that doesn't exist here, right? So again, we have explored that thing, and we have now seen that how we can extract the records, the list, and the table, multiple columns at once. Let's now see another variation. So let's say we again reference that source table here. We have got the table here. So now let's say from this table we wish to extract the records in which we have the state as Rajasthan and city as Jodhpur, right? So how we can do that? For that we can use a combination of item access and the field access. So let's see how we can do that. Now, if we see here, in which row do we have Jodhpur and Rajasthan combination? We have it in the first row, right? So we could write here, let's say 0 manually. And one more thing that we can do smartly is replace this 0 with a field access. So we could input a square bracket here and we could say that do this in case city is, or let's say state is equal to Rajasthan. Let's see that what is the output that we get. So again, Rajasthan, we will have to write that inside double quotes. So in which state is equal to Rajasthan. So again, the issue with this is that the key matched more than one row in the table. So remember the discussion that we did earlier that in this data, we will have a unique combination of state and city. But there could be multiple states. So we have the state as Rajasthan here. If we see the source table, we have three places where we have the state as Rajasthan. But this combination of state and city will be unique. So what we can do, instead of writing this only state is equals to Rajasthan, or let me do one thing. Let us also write city is equals to Jodhpur. Let us write that, right? We could do that, right? So city is equals to Jodhpur. So if we do that, what we are getting? We are getting the record corresponding to city as Jodhpur here. And we could supplement this by state is equal to Rajasthan. We could give multiple conditions as well inside a single bracket, inside a single record as well, right? So we could give conditions like this as well. So we are accessing Rajasthan and within that city as Jodhpur. We could replace this Jodhpur by Udaipur as well. So we will get the record for Udaipur here. Again, this will only work in case this city and state gives us unique combination. In case we have multiple combination of state and city, then this will not work, right? This will not work. We could also give, let's say, uh, regional manager. So regional manager is equal to, let's say, A002. So we are getting that as well, right? And again, for this, if we are trying to access any item from the column which has special characters, so we will have to use that pound sign and double quotes here. So we could give multiple conditions here. We could give a single condition here to access the items of that record based on a condition. And if we could use this kind of lookup format, then this is better to use. This is much faster than using table.selectRows function. I have tested this on large data and this is way more faster than using table.selectRows function. Again, table.selectRows function is much flexible, but if we have a scenario where we can replace table.selectRows function with this kind of referencing, then we must use this, right? This is much more faster and efficient. Let's say if we replace this 002 by, let's say, 020, we don't have A020, so we will get this error here. And again, in that case, we can use question mark operator here. We will get null here. And in order to replace that null, we can use coalesce operator by using double question mark and we can write no manager, right? So we will get this in return. So this is how we can use the combination of item access and the field access. And on the same principles, this format also works. So let's explore this format as well. That how does this work? So let me create another blank query. And what we will do here, we will use excel.current workbook function. So we will use excel.current workbook function, open the brackets here and we will keep it blank. So we are getting this in return, content and the name column. Now what we can do, we can use again the similar syntax here. So in which row does the table 1 belong? So it belongs in the first row. And for getting the first row, we will write 0 here. So we are getting the first row items here. Let's say, let me do one thing. Let me close and load to, and we will create only connection. Let us create a dummy table here, right? Let us create, in fact, two dummy tables here. So let's say we copy this, we paste that here, and we will again convert this to a table. We will go here, and this is table 2, and we can change the formatting here as well. This is table 2, and let's create another table as well here. So we will come here and let's copy the border headers as well. So we have got this, and let's also convert this into a table. So we have three tables in this sheet here, right? In this complete workbook. So again, table names will be unique. So this is table 3. We cannot rename this as table 1 or 2. So if we try to, we will get this. This will remain as table 3. And what we can do, we can remove the formatting here, right? Now what we will do, we will again go to data tab, queries and connections, and we will move to that query here. Right. Now if we see, we have these three tables here. And again, the position of the names here that we will have will depend upon the position of that table in the workbook. So let's say again, let me close and load this. And let us do one thing. Let us move this table to, so we will press Control X to another sheet, right? And let's go to query and let's try to refresh this. So now the positions have switched here. So we have table 1 and table 3 in the first sheet and table 2 in the second sheet. So again, the positions will change depending upon their position in the workbook, right? Because we have table 1 and table 3 in the first worksheet and we have table 2 in the second worksheet, although we created it before table 3, right? So it depends on the position of the table in the worksheet. And we could have multiple items here. So let's say we could have sheets here, we could have references to defined names here. So we could have multiple items here, right? Multiple items here when we are trying to access, let's say, a folder or a different workbook. So we will have different kind of items here. So how do we access, let's say, table 3 here? We know that we could write, let's say, 1 here in order to access the second row because table 3 resides in the second row. But this is not dynamic, right? In future, we know that the position could change. Table 3 could move to, let's say, the fourth row or the fifth row as well. So what we could do, we could replace this one with the field access that we discussed earlier. So we will open the square bracket here, and what we will do. So let's first of all try to study the columns that we have, right? So we have the name column and we have the content column. From this name column, we have to look up for table 3, right? Table 3 as our name here. So what we will do, we will open the curly brackets in order to access the corresponding row. And in that, we will give square brackets and we will write name is equal to table 3 in again double quotes, table 3. So we have got table 3 here and we have got that as a record. Now, in order to access this table here, which resides in this field, content. So what we can do, we can use another square brackets here and we could write content here. We could write content here and we got this table in return. Again, this change type step is automatically generated. So we could remove this and we have got this result here. Let's say we wish to extract the first table, table 1. So we could write that here and we have got this as a result, table 1. And again, the same syntax is used here as well, right? So this is how we can use item access and field access in order to get lot of things done. And we what we have studied that how we can use item access, field access, field access to get a single list or multiple columns in return, right? A table in return. Then we discussed the combination of item access and the field access in order to get such kind of results, right? Where we can define multiple conditions or single condition as well for, let's say, name is equal to table 1, and we could have multiple columns as well. So we could give situations accordingly. Then we also studied about the question mark operator and the coalesce operator here in order to resolve the errors that we used to get when we were not able to access a particular field or a record. So that's it from this video, and I hope you like this video. Please share your feedback in the comments and also suggest ideas and topics which we should cover in future in detail like we did in this video. I will attach the link of this workbook in the comments, and I will also attach the link of the official documentation from Microsoft so that you can further study and research on this topic. So thank you and stay tuned for more such videos in future.